What's going on YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Tommy Martin and I'm a fourth year medical student who just matched into med peds. And I've been going through this series that's kind of like a third and fourth year boot camp to help you guys crush third year and fourth year. And so what we're going to be talking about in this video is everything, well, probably not everything, but a lot of stuff you need to know about applying to residency. Okay, so before we get to that, I want you to know that you are greatly, greatly loved, and that you are wonderfully and beautifully created, and that you are capable of far more than you could ever imagine. Alright guys, so let's get right into this video, and we're going to touch on I've got my notes right here, so 4 main kind of questions that you should be asking yourself, or that I get asked a lot when people are talking about applying to residency. And so the very first question, this is probably things you've been thinking about ever since you were a kid, or definitely your first and second year of medical school, is what specialty should I go into? And now no one can answer this question for you except for yourself. Like, you're the only one that knows this answer. And so just some advice that I would give you is that throughout your third year, number one, keep an open mind. Go into every rotation with no kind of preset ideas that you're gonna like or dislike a specialty. Just go in with a complete open mind, because you never know which one you may fall in love with. Myself, I was dead set on surgery, and then my mind got changed to go into med peds, which I'll talk about in a different video. But yeah, so just go in with an open mind. And number 2 is, whenever you're on your rotations, really evaluate, at least weekly, maybe monthly evaluations, and say, do I truly love this specialty? Like, can I go to the specialty every single day and never feel like I'm at work? Do I come to work every morning full of passion, full of excitement, ready to just crush today? And if your answer is yes on the majority of your days, that may be a very good specialty for you. If not, if you're kind of wanting to sleep in, if you're wanting to skip work, or if you're wanting to skip rotations, then that's probably not the rotation for you. So the other piece of advice that I think is huge and vital would be to pick a specialty that on your rotations you never wanted to miss a second, that you wanted to show up early, that you wanted to stay late, and not because you wanted to get a letter of recommendation or anything, but because you truly enjoyed it. Okay, so I was just thinking while I was doing this, so this is a side note, completely off topic of the video. I am wearing the exact same thing as I wore in last week's video, and that's because I'm filming this on the same day, because I'm about to leave for Kenya this Saturday, so I was just getting all these videos caught up. Okay, back to the topic at hand. So those are kind of the main topics, or those are the kind of main things about programs that I believe you should focus on, but there's one other one that I'm going to touch on. It's probably not my favorite, but what someone in probably career guidance would tell you about, and that is, know how competitive you are. And why I don't like to touch on this is because I'm the type of person that I truly believe, if it's God's plans for you to be an orthopedic surgeon, and you believe that with all your heart, and you only got a 205 on step 1 and a 210 on step 2, I believe if it's God's plan, it'll happen. I've heard crazy stories of people, that matched into competitive specialties with very low scores. And I believe that's because it's God's plan for them. But just based off of, statistics, career guidance, and things like that, and if God hasn't told you for sure what specialty, then know how competitive you are. Know that if you do have lower scores, it'll be extremely hard to get into those very competitive specialties like orthopedic surgery or plastic surgery, things like that. So just know how competitive you are and kind of know where you fit into those programs. But if you are like dead set and you'd only be happy with those competitive programs, then what I say is go for it and leave the rest up to God. All right, it may take some time. It may take a lot of time. But if that's what you truly want, if that's what your heart desires, and that's where you think that you'd be most effective for your future patients, then I say go for it. All right, so the next one is, should I apply to a backup program? Again, I'm going to say that I'm the type of person that I believe that if you're truly dead set on one specialty, if you're truly dead set on one specialty, then why apply backup? Go for it. One of my good friends, Anthony Nemeka, he runs a Instagram and a YouTube channel. He wanted orthopedic surgery, and that's the only thing he wanted, so he did not apply backup, and he went for it. And sadly, he didn't match this year. But man, I have so much respect for that man, because after the match, he posted his sheet that said that he didn't match or whatever, and he said, you know what, I'll be back next year, because I want to be an orthopedic surgeon. I want to be an orthopedic surgeon forever, and so now I'm not going to give up on my dream. I'm not going to let one hardship, knock me off my game from going towards my dream. And so, he's still going to go for it. And so, should you apply backup? That's completely up to you, honestly. Like, I would say that if you're between two specialties, by all means, apply to both of them. Apply a backup. If you want, a very competitive specialty, but you'd be just as happy with one that's not as competitive, then by all means, apply backup. But if you're dead set on one, and that's the only thing you truly want, my advice, and it may cause you not to match, but my advice would be do not apply a backup if that's truly the only thing you want. Unless you'd be just as happy doing something else, or if you'd rather be matched than going unmatched. So again, these are decisions for you, and they're very tough decisions to make, and they're things that all third and fourth year medical students have to go through. So I'll be honest with you guys. So for myself, I did apply a backup, and I only wanted med peds, and so I'm being a hypocrite here. And why I applied backup is because coming from St. George's, a Caribbean medical school, they kind of scared me and said, you need to apply backup, you need to apply backup. And I had competitive scores even. And I got over 25 med peds interviews, and I did not need to apply backup. I applied to 9 internal medicine programs and didn't go on any of those interviews. I went on 16 med peds interviews. So because of my scores and stuff, I didn't necessarily need a backup, but honestly, I shouldn't have applied anyway because I was dead set on med peds. So it is what it is. So should you apply backup? It's up to you. Do you risk it? Do you not? It's up to you, but go with your heart, go with what you believe. But if you'd rather be matched, then apply backup. It's only a couple more dollars, I guess. All right, so next, how many programs should I apply to? So this is kind of hard because we have different subsets of people. We have United States medical students, we have United States people that go to a foreign medical school, and then we have IMGs that go to international medical school. So we have like 3 different subsets of people. I'd say you go down the spectrum. United States do not need to apply to quite as many. U.S. citizens that go to a foreign medical school, they need to apply more, but not quite as much as a foreign medical student going to a foreign medical school. And so what number? So in 2015, the average U.S. student applied to, I believe, 35 programs. I was at a clinical faculty meeting for St. George's, and the new statistics of 2017, the average U.S. student applied to 54 programs. Okay, the average IMG applied to 134 programs. So that's just kind of give you a ballpark range, and there's no solid answer for this. There's no like one number is going to give you a 100% success rate in matching or anything like that. You have to know how competitive you are, what kind of specialty you're going into, and make your decision based on that. So my personal experiences, I had decent step scores at 227 on step 1, at 254 on step 2, had good letters and everything like that. I applied to 55 programs. There were 70 med peds programs, and I applied to 55 of those 70. And out of those 55, I was able to get over 20 interviews and go on 16. I was 25 interview invitations, and I went on 16 interviews. Okay, so those are just kind of my numbers. From St. George's, they recommend us apply to 100 plus. And of course, if you're going into a specialty that's very competitive, you may need even more. And of course, all of this is very, very, specific to each person. We're all different. We all have different board scores. We all have different backgrounds. So you never know. But I would recommend apply to more than you would think you would need, because the long term, we're so far in debt anyway that a couple more $100 really isn't going to matter, and it may increase your chances of matching drastically. Okay, so I would say these are just ballpark numbers, and it all depends on each different person, but I'm just going to go with the averages. So a US student applied to 50 plus programs. An IMG applied to around 125 or more. And again, it depends on your board scores and things of that nature. But now you're to the point where money really doesn't matter. It's like literally a dime in the ocean, because we're so far in debt. Use that extra money, get more chances to get an interview, and then you'll get more interviews, and if you get more interviews, your chances of matching go up drastically. I think the statistics show that if you have 10 or more interviews, you have like about a 98% chance of matching. So that's very good. Okay, the last question that I'm going to touch on is with all of these programs, especially like my wife, she went into pediatrics. There are tons and tons of pediatric programs. So how do you know where to apply to when there are so many different programs. And there's a couple different ways that you could go about this, but I'd say that number one would be apply to places and locations where you think you'd be the happiest. Where if you like warm weather, apply to places that are in the warm weather. If you like cold places, apply to colder climated areas. Another thing is apply to where you're from. Residency programs hold a lot of weight on geographic location. So make sure you apply to programs within your state, because they think, you know, from a program director, I'm not a program director, but if I was, I would think that if you're from Missouri, you will probably want to come back to Missouri, and so you will rank Missouri programs probably higher. So make sure you apply in the geographic location you're from. Outside of that, really it's up to you. Find somewhere where you'd be the happiest, where you would be the most comfortable, where you would thrive, where you'd be excited to be there, where you would love it, and you'd be the best resident you could be based off that geographic location. Okay, so I covered a lot. I hope I didn't ramble too much, but I think those are kind of the main things you need to know about applying to residency. Okay, so pick a specialty that would feel like you were never at work a day in your life. The second one is, should you apply backup? That depends about you. If you only want one specialty, I say go for it. Follow your dreams. If you would be happy with either one, then hey, apply to a backup. How many programs should you apply to? Rough numbers, US 50, IMG 130 and above. The more you apply to, better chances of getting interviews, better chances of matching, so might as well apply to a lot. It's a little bit more money now, but in the long run, it definitely may be worth it. And now, where should you apply to? Wherever you'll be happiest. That's it in a nutshell. All right, guys, that's it for the residency. That's it for applying to residency. Make sure you tune in next week for another kind of episode on this 3rd and 4th year boot camp. So before I get off here, I want you guys to know that you are greatly, greatly loved, and that you are wonderfully and beautifully created, and that you are capable of far more than you could ever imagine.